Good morning, Paul and Bhargav. It's Tuesday, the 8th of June. Here's the heads up brief for today. For the Southeast Asia production, we covered 19 issues. In North Asia, we covered 4, and for Australasia and the Pacific Islands, we covered 9. In South Asia, we covered 14 issues, plus the major issues in Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Okay, excellent. Go ahead.
So in Indonesia, Suzy Air pilot Philip Mertens enters the 5th month of captivity by the West Papua National Liberation Army. The Papua police also said that the TPNBP was using village funds to arm and operate.
Okay, thanks very much. Of course, we've been saying that for years, but also it's not only about village funds and funds extorted by corrupt officials, but it's also just being funded by a lot of gold panning, manipulation of even police gangs that are controlling the illegal gold mining, but also stealing and trading for weapons. So there's a lot of machinations here, but what is clear and evident is despite all the promises, despite high payments and a high cost of a defence force to operate in Papua, a very poorly combined, lacking unity group of psychopathic criminals is being allowed to pretend it's capable of bringing the 5 provinces together. It's neither unified or competent, but it's showing up a million-odd person defence force to look very, very silly, despite all the rhetoric. But all the comments about we know where we are, we know where they are, and we're conducting operations 5 months in, proof's in the pudding. Thank you.
Right. And regarding the Jakarta Bandung high-speed rail, which was set to open in August commercially, the project will be delayed to January next year. Construction hasn't been fully completed, and the Ministry of Transport rejected the Chinese consortium's push to open in August. The cost overruns are already over $1 billion, and the project has been delayed about 4 years now.
Why don't they want the Chinese to open it in August if the Chinese think they can? What's going on there? What's your theory or what's the facts on that one?
Paul, the Ministry of Transport said that 100% of the construction has not yet been completed, and the Chinese consortium wants to open it despite that.
Yeah, but if the Chinese consortium open it and start earning revenues, it's pretty obvious, and that's what you do in most countries. I think there's a lot more to it than that. Some officials are working out that they want a higher cut of deal because you wouldn't not open it just because construction's not finished. Most major projects, it's not always finished. So I think we need to look into that in some more detail, okay? Maybe chat with a few of our key guys in Indonesia because there's more to that than meets the eye.
Yeah, definitely, Paul. We'll look into it. In Myanmar, the military government has offered to provide reliable electricity to industrial zones in Yangon at triple the current price. This is as the country faces a severe power shortage. Currently, industrial zones only have about 4 hours of electricity daily, and the military is talking to business owners regarding an increase in prices.
Yeah, well, of course, the military wants to do it at a state that, one, they can make money out of, and two, it's fair market prices. Unfortunately, the infrastructure, not only under this government, but under the last so-called civil government, which are actually activists trying to learn how to govern, there hasn't been power. So most of the industrial sites actually have to set up their own power. So they're not going to change over to a system that's proven to not work, whether it's run by the military or run by the former civil so-called government. So I can't see how that's going to occur, because to set it all up, you're not going to set it all up unless you straight away steal electricity somewhere else in the grid and give it to them to make money, because they're certainly not going to wait for the military to set up the relevant infrastructure. So again, more to this than meets the eye. Keep a close eye on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Moving over to Thailand, the Election Commission said that it will start investigating the complaint filed against the Move Forward Party leader after the election results are endorsed. This is expected to happen near the end of the month.
Okay, and this is fascinating, okay, because obviously Move Forward Party Kunpita's made an entry into politics. He's got the most votes of any party, but he's made 2 errors worthy of any blossoming young child. He's decided that he is going to talk out against the royal family and the powers and the establishment, whilst he's got shareholdings in a media outlet, which gives them an opportunity to ban him. And he has been talking about potentially linking up the Pheu Thai party, even though Thaksin's daughter's in charge of that. That's 101 kiddie era too, because that gives them the motivation to chop him. So the coalitions are going to decide what happens with Kun Peter. If it's not in the best interests of the established military royal family, then they're going to simply disqualify him. But they could actually use him and get him under control and manipulate and utilise him if they think it's in their best interest to form a coalition around him. Of course, the other key potential powerful groups are Bumja Thai Party, Pheu Thai less so, because again, the establishment's going to be wary about them taking a major role. So how this coalition unfolds is going to be incredibly interesting. And I think we need to actually just continue to give our clients a heads up that the powers to be don't care if there's civil unrest. They're just seeing people's popularity and what they talk is something to manipulate in the future. They're not actually listening to it and thinking, hey, we need to change. They don't need to change. They don't want Thailand becoming a democracy. They look at all what's going on in England, America, and Australia with wokeism and go, well, that's not really aligned with our values. Kun Peter might be young and progressive, but we don't want our societies to go down a path where we're not in control and then ultimately, unbeknownst to Kun Peter, America or China are in control. So again, this is a very complex situation. Love your analysis. Keep doing those assessments. They're fantastic. Thank you.
Yep. And lastly, in the region, in the Pacific Islands, there's controversy over multiple geopolitical security deals. Fiji is reviewing its police exchange agreement with China after local and government opposition, and Fiji and New Zealand will sign a defense pact soon. Meanwhile, in Vanuatu, politicians, some who favor ties with China, are questioning a security agreement with Australia, which they said that they will block the ratification of.
Look, I think it's fantastic that there's controversy. I think it's always healthy to educate the public with controversy. What we need to do is see if in Vanuatu it turns violent, and then obviously we need to predict if that's going to occur. At this stage, I think that's probably unlikely, and I think the voices in opposition to it are probably minority. It's certainly not a majority. It may be near neutral, but not yet. But could be at some point. We need to monitor that. The situation in Fiji is kind of replicating what happened in the Solomon Islands, where they're realising what China promises and what you get may be two different things. So they're sort of heading back to all pigs are equal, but some pigs are less equal. So they're heading back to the West that they may be seeing, starting to open their eyes and be less arrogant, given that they've been replaced or usurped by China. And those that have tried that path are going, well, that's not everything it was cracked up to be. And I think China and the West both need to see themselves for what they are and how they're perceived, and you can't just operate your values and superimpose your values, or people are electing to go elsewhere, as the growth of BRICS shows. But on all these issues for the Pacific Islands, all roads lead to the geopolitical battle between China and America. Thanks, Uday.
Yeah. In South Asia and Pakistan, the Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan march from Karachi to Islamabad reached Lahore yesterday. The TLP is protesting against inflation, unemployment, and fuel prices. The protest motorcade has been peaceful so far, and thousands of people are present in the motorcades.
So Tehreek-e-Labbaik Pakistan, or TLP, is one of those Islamist groups which have the capacity to mobilize supporters across the country, mainly the conservative part of the country, such as Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. We can't even rule out rural Punjab and Sindh. They have a track record and the capacity to hold the incumbent government to a ransom. They have done that with Imran Khan government in the past, but on this occasion, this seems like an opportunity for them to grandstand using all of the economic indicators which are down in the dump. So I do not expect this to turn violent or escalate any further, but we'll have to keep a close eye. It's Pakistan after all. Things can go out of hand any time.
Yeah, definitely. In India, hundreds of members of the Kuki community, a tribal group from Manipur, held a demonstration in front of the residence of Home Affairs Minister Amit Shah in New Delhi yesterday. In the violence over the last month, at least 100 people have been killed and over 300 people have been left injured in Manipur.
The tribal issues and the secessionist movements in the Northeast are not going away anytime soon. And the incumbent government led by the BJP, it's better that they wake up and see for the problem for what it is and let the locals figure out the issue as much as possible instead of imposing a military or a martial law, which they have tried to do recently, so, which will only make things worse than solve anything.
Right. And lastly, in Europe, the North Alliance Treaty Organization, NATO, will conduct its largest military air exercises between the 12th and 23rd of June. Hundreds of aircraft and 10,000 personnel from 25 NATO countries will participate out of air bases in Germany with exercises over the North Sea and the Baltic Sea.
The NATO has conducted such exercises quite frequently, but the timing of this particular exercise is a matter of concern, the way I see it, especially in the context of the recent agreement between Belarus and Russia to place nuclear warheads in the Belarusian territory. Putin or Russia may see this as an attempt to flex their muscles, and this will not de-escalate the situation any further. In fact, this won't be a deterrent either.
I think it's exactly the point, Bhargav. I think in the arrogance and naivety of the powers to be, the ultimate puppet that pulls the strings of NATO and Europe across the far eastern side of the Pacific Ocean, they love this concept of show of force, which is often seen as an easy way out rather than think and act with virtue. They just express their complete and utter arrogance. It's now the second dimension of that. They're no longer doing it themselves. They're manipulating other people to do it for them, which is, another indicator of complete and utter ignorance. And it's always a tough question: are they doing it because of ignorance or arrogance, or is it a perfect storm? Of course, it is going to be an escalating factor, and of course, even our mates over in America, they don't actually seem to be anything other than wanting this war, because ultimately they're trying to destroy Russia. They just underestimated, like they do in every war that they've been going to for the last 50 years, that their values and what they want and the motivations of the people that are the victims are totally different. And it's not going to de-escalate until Europe's main populace and the American main populace actually work out this is a little game for a minority of people in the business and government world in America. And until they work that out, America's not going to de-escalate it. In Vietnam, at least there was a valid argument. They didn't want the growth of communism going across the world. Of course, that, like most of the analysis that comes out of Langley's, proven to be wrong and arrogance, although they would argue it only didn't happen because of the wonderful involvement of the flag with many stars. But the reality is it's too stupid to be real. Sorry, you couldn't write this stuff. Okay. So it is real, and there's the conundrum. Thank you.
Right. That's the brief for today. Anything else from you, Paul and Bhargav?
No, guys, I'm in Brisbane. But if you could afford me 5 minutes, we'll just have a quick chat after the recording. Cheers.
Yeah.